And we should get through, hopefully, we'll get through one-time special order. And maker by, which I think are nice special order. Let's see, those are pages. Oops, that's not it. 2, 3, and then maker by I think goes up through 7. Let me check and make sure I'm not lying to you. I am not lying to you. Okay, so, and we already did page 1 last week, so we're going to 2, 3. Hopefully that's what we'll get through. All right. Okay, so let's go to, way too far. Let's go to page 2. And on page 2, let me switch to my calculator camera. Okay. And again, this is a one-time special order, and I think we talked about this a little bit last time. If you recall from last time, the only thing that is relevant is the special order. If you guys remember that from last time, I'm going to come down here to the very bottom and just talk about it again. You know, your choices for special order. This is on page. This is page 12. So for special order, we had basically 2 decisions. We had, say, option 1. And option 2. And option 1 was we had a regular production. Which you'd also have for option 2. Oops. So we have option 1, we have a regular production. Option 2, we have a regular production. Option 1, we have a special order. And no special order. You know, so just regular production. So these are the options, and you'll notice that the regular production is not makes it worse. This is not relevant to the decision. It's like the Coke and the fries and the Happy Meal. So the regular production is not relevant. Now, and this is something that is a little bit important, and as we go through this, and that is the regular production is not relevant. However, don't be worried about, gee, I put something that's not relevant in here to the decision. As long as you do it to both options, it's not going to change your answer. So there really isn't anything, it's just more work, but there isn't anything wrong with putting information that's not relevant into, as we do our calculations. Why? Because it's going to add the same amount to both sides. So if you look at, if you were to make a mistake and put the regular production, as long as you did it for both of them, it would be fine. So let's say the special order added, I'm just making this up, $100, and the regular production added $300. As long as you put it into both sides, you're still going to come up with the right answer. Right? I mean, because spacing here is probably going to be goofed up. Oh, it's not. Hey, look at that. Oh, no, I goofed it up. You still come up with the right answer. So it isn't necessarily that you're so worried about the irrelevant information coming in that it's going to give you a really wrong answer. It's just you don't need to. So in our case, for this one, there would be nothing wrong with putting it in, as long as you did it to both sides. If you only did it for one side, that'd be a problem. But if you did it for option 1 and option 2, if you included it, your conclusion is going to be the same. Would you, instead of would you rather have $100 extra, it'd say would you rather have 400 or 300? You pick the 400. So, yeah. All right. And again, so don't be overly worried if it's as long as you do it to both sides, it's fine. Okay, so coming back here, so this will be our one-time special order. So someone is wants a special order with us, and they say that they want 10,000 of these, but they want them at a really good price because they're ordering a big number. The normal selling price is that, right? So they're saying, okay, no, we don't want to pay that. We're gonna make this big order, but we want a good price. We want this $85. So the question is, should you do it? Okay. Now, if we're just doing the one-time special order, and that's what we are, write that in here. I don't know if that is hyphenated or not. Oh, no, not all of it. I should know this. This is quite literally probably the, 60 or 70th time I've taught this one. Okay, so one-time special order. So the only thing we're going to do is look at the additional amounts of and try to see what our additional income is. That is not how you spell additional. Okay, that does it. I'm sick of this stool. I hit the stool 5 times every single class. All right. All right, so let's take a look at this one-time special order. So someone gives us this one-time special order. I'll make it, I don't know. So there's one-time special order that they're going to give us, and it is for $85 for 1,000. So what's this going to do to our sales? Okay, well, now I remember with this. Okay, so the units will be, well, they want 10,000. All right, so 10,000 units. And the selling price they want is $85. And so this is how much additional sales we'll have. $850,000. I think it's 850,000. So 1,000, no, 10,000 times 85. Okay, so 850,000. You don't have to put the plus there. It's kind of implied if it doesn't have it. Okay. Variable cost. Now, the variable cost per unit, they don't give us. Okay. So they don't give us the variable cost per unit. They give us the total variable cost. The total fixed cost too. They give us the total variable cost, but they don't give us the cost per unit. So we will sit in awkward silence until someone figures out this question. I'm going to do it all in annoying capitals and misspell it. So if you have it, you can either do it in chat or if you want to just blurt it out.
Is it 40?
Yeah. So we'd have more awkward silence there, but okay, yeah, that is right. So 40, so this would be, so I imagine you took the 10,000, the million divided by the 10,000 units. I was messing up my. Oh, I got capitals. It turns out when you're obnoxious, it's hard to stop being obnoxious. I'll clean this up in a second.
Sorry, wouldn't it be 100 if it's divided by 10,000? I think I divided it by 25,000. That's why.
Yes, you did. You did it correctly. I did it incorrectly.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I was just looking when you actually, as you said that, I looked at this. This can't be right. Yeah. So this is the so $40 per unit. So that's the variable cost. And I am going to left justify these just because it's easier. Okay, so this is the calculation we did here that I did incorrectly. And again, they didn't give us the cost per unit, but they did tell us that the total units produced were 25,000. So this gives us $40 per unit, and that is what we're going to use for our variable cost. So coming down here, we have units, and we have cost per unit. So we still have the same 10,000. That's a special order. cost per unit is the 40. Now I can change the whole thing, I guess. And so that equals 400,000. Can you guys hear that? That galloping dog? We got a rescue dog that this little dog that didn't do anything. It was looked very calm, and they said, "Oh no, it's just and tears around the house all day long." Okay, so this is our. So this one's the same as the first one, except for we had to jump through another hoop doing this stuff here. What's the additional fixed cost? Give you a hint, kind of a trick question. What's the additional fixed cost?
There is no additional fixed cost. It'll be 0.
Yep. You may ask, you really have to put that in? No, you don't. Fixed costs in general don't change. So unless there's something in here that says that our fixed costs have changed, they're going to stay the same. So there is no additional fixed cost. So the additional income would be the 450,000. So should we take the order? Yes.
So basically, by you taking a special order, it kind of depends on your variable costs.
Pretty much exclusively, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of looks like it.
Yeah, and if I don't know if you guys have had microeconomics. Yeah, they do think a little differently in microeconomics, but they will have it'll look like this. You know, if you look in your economics class, and you look in your microeconomics class. They'll say that you'll produce up until your marginal revenue equals your marginal cost. It's the same thing we're doing here. You produce as long as your selling price, up until the point, I should say, that your selling price equals your marginal cost is going to be your variable cost. Once your selling price is less than your variable cost, so it's sort of like this. If your selling price is greater than your variable cost, in this case, yeah, you'll produce it. It's kind of, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of common sense, although my writing would indicate that. So you're going to produce it as long as your selling price is greater than your variable cost. When your selling price equals your variable cost, you're going to stop. You know, the idea is to get more sales, you would usually cut your price. As long as your selling price is more than your variable cost, you'll produce. So if you're selling them, in this case, we sell them for some number, 85. So 85 is greater than variable cost of 40. Yeah, so, this is basically that. And that was one of the kind of genius things about the original author of this book. He's not around anymore. But is that, this is the kind of stuff they had in the economics book, and people thought, well, those are fine, but you can't apply those to anything. And the author said, oh, yeah, you can. The selling price is the marginal revenue, and the variable cost is the marginal cost. So as long as you're selling them for more than the variable cost, you'll produce it. And that really is all, this is the marginal revenue in econ terms. You don't have to know this. It's not going to be on this. So this is really the marginal revenue. And this is the marginal cost. The additional cost. So additional revenue, additional sales of the additional revenue basically, and additional variable cost is the additional cost that will be added on. And notice if this, if the selling price got down to 40, you'd stop producing. There'd be no reason to produce. Your income would be zero, right? If this was 40 and this was 40. So this all comes out of micro econ. It's a little bit of a more applied version of it, but that's what it comes out. Okay, so yes, why would you do it? And this is important. It's the additional income, not the additional revenues. Maybe put that down. In the news, a lot of times you hear about additional revenues because it's the bigger number. But truthfully, the number we're more thinking about in accounting, or in business in general, is the income number. No reason to increase your income by or your revenues by 850,000 if your costs go up by $1 million. That's a bad deal. Okay. Yeah, so this is as long as your marginal revenue covers your marginal cost, and again, that's what we do for the additional sales and additional variable costs, you'll produce. And so, I mean, even if you just looked at these costs here, you would know you're going to make it. Now, you wouldn't know what the total was until you multiply them out, but this would definitely be a yes, even if you didn't know the number of units yet. Okay. Number 3 is the same one, same thing. So I will be quiet while you guys figure out. You should take the special order. And this one, you know already, you're not gonna want to do it. The variable cost is more than the selling price. So yeah, you're not going to want to, this is the cost is more than the selling price. You're not, you're not going to do it. The question on here is how bad is it? Oh, no, that's right. So the variable per unit was what, 50? Okay, so this would be here. So we're gonna have negative 150,000. And again, you can even do before you did this, you'd know that wasn't gonna fly. So additional fixed cost is, and again, you do not have to put this in. I'm putting it in there just for fun. Should they accept the special order? No. Oops. Income would decrease by $15,000. So do they want to do it? No, you don't want to do it. You'd be losing $15,000 on it, and it would decrease your overall, regardless of what the regular production is. It would reduce your overall profitability by 15,000. It'd be kind of like this. Selling price is 45. Your marginal cost is 50. You will not produce these. And you truthfully, if they were equal, even you probably wouldn't do it. You might do it just for developing a market or something. But okay, so that's 3. Okay, make or buy. Oh, let's go back. Any questions on this one? Okay, make or buy. I'm going to show you the way one of the ways I like to teach it, just because I'm not sure why I have got to set up kind of a funky way here. Just because it's usually easier to do it this way. Okay, so make or buy. What make or buy is, make or buy is we can make them ourselves or buy them from somebody else. In other words, someone else would produce them for us, sell them to us, and then we would sell them to somebody else. So make is if we're going to manufacture them. And, make or buy, I mean, make, we can manufacture them ourselves. Buy is we will buy them from somebody else and then we sell them. So we won't produce them. We won't manufacture them. We'll be buying them from somebody else. Somebody else will be making them for us. So make or buy is that decision of, do we manufacture this ourselves or do we pay somebody else to manufacture it? And what do you think is the overall driving factor of whether you make them yourself or buy them from someone else?
Cost.
Yep. Cost. Usually the sales are the same. The selling price is the same. So if we're going to make, I don't know, I'm just making something up. So if we're going to make truck tires, we can make them ourselves, or we can have someone else that makes tires make these truck tires for us. And we're going to do it based on cost, whichever can do it for less cost. The selling price is generally going to be the same. So when we go to our, not that one. Let me go all the way to, I'm sorry. I thought I had it on that page. Maybe I'll copy it over to that one. It'd be a lot easier than doing this. So it's sort of like this. So this is for make or buy. Oh, look how much bigger make or buy is. Okay. Oops, those are numbers. I'm just kind of getting used to using my keyboard here.
I don't think you're sharing your screen, Professor.
You are correct. I'm not. I'm being stingy. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, So make or buy, it's sort of like this. Okay. So when we do a make or buy, so let's say this is option 1 would be make. Additional sales will be the same. Either way, we're going to sell them for the same price. The additional variable costs will be the ones that change. The fixed costs will be the same. Oops. So the only thing that's going to be relevant are the additional variable costs. So what we can do is compare what it costs us to make versus what it costs to buy. Now, coming down here, in most of these problems, in most of these problems, the fixed costs do change. So if the fixed costs do change, and they will in these problems, these will also become relevant, although there's a twist to it that I'm going to talk about later. If the fixed costs don't change, if there's nothing said about the fixed costs, assume they don't change. Many times they will change, though. Just as an example, if you're not going to be manufacturing these items, do you need to have a plant supervisor to watch people not make them? You don't. So a lot of times the fixed costs will change if you do a make or buy. So usually the variable cost changes, but there also may be changes in the fixed costs. The sales are generally the same. You don't have to worry about those usually, because now, would it make your answer incorrect if you put those in? No, as long as you did the same for both things. I don't think I even give you enough information though to do that. I don't think I even put the sales price in. So really, you're looking at the cost. So whichever one is cost. So the total cost. So you look at the total cost for make and the total cost for buy, and whichever one is cheaper. So if it's cheaper to make them, you're going to make them. If it's cheaper to buy them, you buy them. And the sales are not going to be relevant because it'll be the same selling price. It's just a matter of where do you make them at. Okay. What time is it? Okay. All right. So the company has incurs the following estimated costs in making one of its products. Okay, so this is the cost to make them. So we can just add those up. And you see we have fixed overhead, we have Direct labor, variable overhead, direct materials. So these are variable. So this one's fixed. And let's make that. And these are all variable costs. For example, you have someone making these things, they don't, you don't have to hire them to make them anymore. You're not going to make them, or you can have them do something else. Yeah, it very well could be that you're shifting this production so that you can have them working on something that's more profitable too. It's another idea. But anyway, direct materials are variable. The more, if you're not making the item, you don't need to buy the materials to make them. And the variable overheads, like things like electricity. Well, if you're not running the machines, you're not going to be paying that. So the variable costs will all just drop out, right? But these fixed costs are the ones that we're going to have to really talk about because they're going to change. Okay, let me add this up. So it's costing $60,000 for us to make these. And so we are going to compare that to the cost to buy them. Okay, so we get another manufacturer and they've offered to make the next year's production of 1,000 units. Same as that 1,000. So they'll make the 1,000 units and they'll do it for $50 each. Assume the plant will be idle if the offer is accepted, and fixed factory overhead costs of $8,000 would be avoided. So we can save $8,000 on insurance if someone else makes them for us. Okay. Well, let's see how this would work out. First of all, so the cost to make, I think I'm gonna do it down here. Okay. So cost to make and cost to buy. I'm gonna copy this. Okay, what's going to happen to the fixed cost? So the fixed cost is 25,000. Now, if nothing else is said, that fixed cost is going to just be there. Excuse me. So for example, if this was a warehouse, they just have to have a warehouse to store the item before they sell them. But they're telling us that 8,000 would be avoided. So how much fixed cost or fixed overhead would there still be?
17,000.
Yep. So minus 8,000. Now, all these variable costs are going to go to zero. If you think about it, the variable cost, the per unit, they're going to go to zero because, well, zero times anything is 0. So these will all be 0. You're not going to have any direct labor. You're not going to have any variable overhead. You're not going to run the machines or anything. You're not going to have any direct materials. You don't need them if someone else is making them for us. What do we still have to take into account here, though? So there's going to be 17,000 left of the fixed cost. But what do we else we have to have and take account for? The cost to buy, right? So the cost to buy. It's really easy to say that differently. Buy offer. It's not really the total cost to buy, because the total cost to buy will have fixed cost in it too. Okay, so this is for 1,000 units. Times, they're gonna make them for us for $50 each. $50,000. So this is that buy offer down here. There's a better way to do that. Let me make this a different color. And so this is at 8,000. Oops. Okay, so this will be our total cost to make. No, it won't be the total cost to buy. Will be 67,000. So would we want to make or buy them?
Make.
Yep. Yeah, we want to make them. It's cheaper. Let's see here. Hey. So we can make them. We can make them for that, or we can buy them for that. So we're going to make them. Should they accept the offer? No. Oops, more emphatic. No. Oops, less emphatic. No. What would happen to our income if we took the buy offer?
We will lose 7,000.
Yep. No, we do not want to do it. Hey. Oh, no, we do not want to accept the offer. Okay, so now just to kind of recap, fit costs in general are not relevant. They don't change. However, they become relevant if they do change. And I think it was, what time is it? Yeah, let's take a break to here because I want to come back after this is soaked in a little bit. I want to talk about just in general what I'm, what we're doing with this and what is, yeah, I'll talk a little bit about relevant costs in a second. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break and be back at how about 7:05. 7:08. And I'll leave this up. If you have any questions, we come back. Okay.
Professor, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I thought I was the only one. I thought my mic went out.
I gotta pay attention. I don't mean to do that. But this is my airplane, as I was talking about. It's supposed to fly in a circle and it doesn't. It just kind of like, I don't know. It does that. So hopefully I'll get that fixed by next time. Anyway, so the way I showed you how to do this was taking the total variable cost and the total fixed cost. Now, in truth, the fixed cost, not all of it is relevant. Let me share my screen so I'm not doing the same dumb thing I did before. You'll notice here, the only part of fixed cost that's relevant is really that 8,000. Right. I mean, you know, it's 25,000 minus the 8,000. The 8,000 is really the only change. And so there is a way of doing this with doing it just by doing the relevant part of the fixed cost. It just seems that and we're not going to get the wrong answer. You know, we're not going to get the wrong answer to it. It's going to be the same. You know, if you take all the fixed costs, even the non-relevant ones, and along with the relevant ones, you're going to get the correct answer. And that's the same thing here. If we were just doing the relevant cost, this would be these three would be 35,000. Down here, this would be the buy would be 50,000 minus the change in the fixed cost. Oops. You know, it'd be the same $7,000 difference. The reason I show you doing the total method is that it's usually easier than to try to keep track of this. Just do the total. And not only that, I can tell you that one of the things that these decisions to do these things, these come out of what's called appropriations in most companies. All capitals. Oh. Appropriations, and that's where they appropriations are when they decide to spend big dollars. They will make big changes. They will have appropriations committees, and those committees will determine whether they should go ahead and go through with these changes. So, for instance, make or buy, it would go through an appropriations committee. Invariably, someone's going to ask you what the total cost is. They just are. If you start talking about relevant costs and trying to explain that to them, you know, you're going to lose them. Or many of them you'll lose anyways. So anyways, in practice, even though it's true that only the 8,000 is relevant, in practice, a lot of times you're going to use the total cost. Take the caps off here. You know, megabytes, these are usually, you know, a lot of times they're for big dollars. They could be for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So a lot of times using the total cost is a better way of doing it. And I'll tell you kind of an odd one that I had. I was auditing one time, and I was auditing appropriations, which by the way, literally half of them were messed up, like seriously messed up. All of them had a little bit of error in them, but like half of them were just terrible. But anyway, there was one that they didn't include any labor costs, and I thought it was an error. So I went and talked to them. It was a big dollar amount thing. It was, you know, millions of dollars, literally. And I said, why aren't there any labor costs in here? There's no labor savings or anything. And they said, well, because they have a union, they had what they call a net pool, and that when they did this change, there was a certain number of people that they had to keep on site. because of the union contract. And because of that, the labor amount was basically non-existent, that they were going to have a savings in labor for it. And they literally had people that show up to the plant. Sometimes they'd have work for them. They'd be painting something. Sometimes they'd be sitting in the lounge watching, Flintstones or something. But they had to have a certain number of people because of the union contract. So that was a case where the variable costs were not relevant because they didn't change. So that was kind of an unusual one. You don't usually see it that way. All right. Okay, let's get back to this stuff. Okay, let's go to page 5, and nope, there's nothing on it. So see if you can figure out page 5. I'll be as quiet as I can. I'm going to get my airplane. No, I'm not. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this one you probably okay. So should the offer be accepted? Yes. Net income will increase. I'm going to go ahead and put this in more verbiage here. And so the difference is so our income would increase by 60,000 if we were to take this. Instead of paying out 750,000, we pay out 690,000. We pay out 60,000 less. So the income, our income would increase by 60,000 if we were to take this buy offer. Question on that? Okay, let's go down to this, oops, this one, and there's a little bit of a catch to this one. There's an A and a B. So the first one is, should we take the offer, just like we did before? So you're gonna work that out exactly how we did before. And down here it says, how much of additional cost savings would be needed? Would need to be found for an overall savings of 55,000 if the order were accepted. So go ahead and do the first one. Go ahead and do A first. Then we'll come down here and talk about this one. For this one, you don't need the unit cost, although you could see how they got them. You know, if they had 20,000, you take 20,000 times those. You know, 20,000 times 45 equals 900,000. You don't really need that, but you can do that for all these. You do not need to do this. You know, this is how those numbers came about. But be careful, the fixed overhead's down here this time. These are all the variable. This will be 0. So 20,000 times 95. These would all be zeros. These are all variable. So fixed overhead is really the one that we're looking at. And that's one that's going to be. Okay, so this comes out to 2,660,000. Okay, so would we want to make or buy these?
Make them.
Yeah, okay, cheaper to make them. Yeah, the total cost to make is 2,600,000. Hey, the difference is 60,000 again, right? It's an unhappy coincidence. It's a difference. Oh, it's 60,000. Now, in this case, though, it's a no because it costs more. Right? I mean, this would be a negative. Subtract those would be negative. 60,000. So. Oops. Okay. I'm making too much stuff red. Change you back. Okay, now a lot of times when you're dealing with stuff like this. Anyway, I heard the something going. A lot of times they'll be go arounds. So they'll shoot an offer. You'll come back with a different offer. You go back and forth to see, to try to negotiate basically. So a lot of times they might shoot you an offer and you say, no, it's too much money. Like in this case, no, we'll be losing 60, whatever. You probably wouldn't tell them what you're losing, to be honest with you. But you'd say, no, we can make them cheaper ourselves. They might come back to you and say, okay, well, what will it take for you to accept this offer? What do we have to do? What we have to come down to for you to take it. And so that's kind of where the second part comes in is we're going to reject the first offer because it's more expensive. We can make them cheaper than they can, or than they can sell to us. So the next one is, okay, well, you shoot us a price. Then what do you need for this to be down to for us to take the, for us to get the business basically. So that's what the second part of it is. So down here, so this is okay. Let me calculate. Okay, so how much additional cost savings would be needed for an overall savings of 55,000? So they're already, their offers at negative 60,000. We're saying, look, we're not going to fire all these people and go through all these changes and stuff unless it's going to be worth our while, and it's got to be positive in our favor by 55,000. So the question is, how much would it take to make their offer, which is negative 60,000, to make it an overall savings, a positive savings of 55,000 if we were to take their offer? And if you think you have it, either yell it out or put it on the chat.
115,000.
Yep. 115,000. So yep. Yeah, it's sort of like this. I'm just going to say, hold it down here. I'm going to say X is the offer. And so it's sort of like this, X is currently at negative 60,000. So what we have to change X to make it 55,000. And you just got to solve for X. Let's see if I can do something here. Maybe worse. Okay, so we're going to add 60,000 each side. So we're going to say that, oops, X So we're going to say, okay, you have to get an additional savings of 115,000. I set this up wrong. I should say this would be additional savings. So we'd say their additional savings had to be 115,000. So here's a question for you. This is a little bit difficult. What would their unit price have to be for us to have an overall savings of 115,000? I don't know myself. Let's see. You know, 95,000 is too much. Or excuse me, $95 is too much. So what would they have to decrease this to each? It's a tough question. I'll give you a hint. It's based on how many units we're buying. Based on that. So a 20,000 units. Oops. And we got to pull 115,000 out of the offer. You know, they have to drop their price, the total price, by 115,000. So how much would it be per unit? If you think you have it, go ahead and blurt it out or put it in the chat.
I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. I got $89.25.
You got it exactly right. Perfect.
I got the same thing, 89.25.
Good. So this is basically you have to take out what is it? 115,000 divided by 20,000. 575. So you have to decrease it by $5.75. This is one way of doing it. So this would have to be the savings, you know, the decrease. So you take 95. There's other ways to do it, but I mean, you could also take 115 off of this. Off the 1.9 million or something. And then you come up with what you said. What do you guys want? 89.25, you said? So you come back to them and say, look, if you can drop the price down to 89.25, we'll do it. If you can't, we won't. And this is fairly common that you're not just going to switch everything over and disrupt everything. And quite honestly, add a lot of risk. You know, if you go with somebody else, there's a risk that they may not be able to get the orders in. They might go bankrupt. They might, you know, there's all kinds of risks to having someone else do it. So, you know, the thing is, you're not going to do that unless you get a decent savings out of it. So you would probably come back to them and say, no, 95 is too high, 89.25, we'll do it. Okay. Now this one is trickier. Because, I mean, it's not bad, but this is the per unit. So there's 5,000 valves, the unit cost. So the units for these will be 5,000. Everything else is the same, so you just have to multiply it out. You can multiply all those out. There is a quicker way to do it. If you don't want to multiply all those out and then add them up, you could just add, don't do that. You could just add these up and then multiply it once. That's another way of doing it. But this is the put some good parts in. Okay, there's a few different ways. You guys, another thing about this, you do not have to do it the way I do it. If you have, if it's technically sound, if it, coming up with, because there are other ways of doing this. So you do not have to do exactly how I do it. It's 400,000. You could also have just done this, add these up. Multiplied it once. Either way, you came with the same number. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I know why this looks funny. I got the chart underneath. I usually I had the other ones. I had this underneath the thing. Okay. Oops, that's not right. Okay, so it says cost of $4 per unit would be avoided if the offer were accepted. So I'm just gonna do it first. $4 times 5,000 units. equals 20,000. Oops. There's other ways of doing that. Hey, that's not right. 30,000. Let's see. Buy offers for 5,000 units. Times $75 each. All right, so 5,000 times 75. It's close, but it's comes up short. For 405,000. Circles. Come on, go. Okay, so they accept the offer. No. Okay. All right, accept the offer. No, this would be 400. It's close. So $5,000 worth off if they took. All right, 5,000. Okay. So they want an overall savings of 40,000. So how much do they need to take out of the offer? And how much per unit? How much are they? How much for an overall savings? How much do they have to take off? How much the overall savings is?
45,000.
Yep. The overall savings is so X minus. So right now they're at minus 5,000. And we want an overall savings of 40,000. And again, we're basically saying like we're not going to mess up our production and all that unless it's worth our while. Make this look nice. So we'd say, look, you have an overall savings of about 45,000 out of it. And how much would that be per unit? Or in total, what would you have to charge them? $100. Well, this is for 5,000 units. So if you did divide by 5,000 units.
About 81 cents.
I think it's $9, isn't it? Let me do some calculations here. Yeah, I think it's $9. Oops. Let's get my thing here. Let me check our answer on a second. Let me check it in a second here. Okay, so if I offer was $75 a unit. So we would say they'd have to offer us, like, get it down to $66 per unit. And if we multiply that out, was 330 equals would be equal to 330, and this would equal 360. And there's our, there's our $40,000 savings. So we'd say, look, you got to drop the price down to, 360, $66 each. That's tough. It's tough being able to know what to change it to. There's other ways to do it. You could have also pulled the 45,000 out of the 375. Yeah, that'd have been 330 also. And again, this is, the negotiations, and they'll go around and around, and can't take that. Okay, well, what can you take? What number would make you want to do it? Oh, you know what? Let's stop there. Oops. Any question on this one? And by the way, I think I give this is extra credit points on the test. The test will be extra credit points for figuring that one out. Yeah, this will be the regular part of the test. And then, I think you guys should be fine with it. And then this will be something other. But I'm gonna put this back the way it should be. Yeah, so you guys, you have to be able to do number one, and then B will just be extra credit. So if you get confused or something on this, or you just don't want to do it. It's not worth 3 points. You don't have to. But anyway, so that's the make or buy, and those are big decisions. They're usually a lot of people talking back and forth about whether they should make them or not. Could be get something cheaper. It could also be that you only have so many people and you want to free up some of your people for a different project or whatever it is. There's all kinds of reasons why you might want to do that. But the idea is the same. You do the calculations the same. And quite honestly, it could also be that another project that's more profitable, that you may even take it if it was a loss. Say, okay, we're going to lose 5,000. Okay, we can deal with that because we're going to be making $300,000 a year on this other project. So we'll give up 5,000, to make 300,000 or whatever it is. So, a lot of the times this is kind of negotiated stuff, but it's also, usually kind of a high level stuff for this. Question on that? Okay, let's stop there. And you guys have a test to turn in on Wednesday. No homework on chapter 11. We got to finish this handout. We'll probably do some book problems next week in practice exam. But we'll see what we get through. The rest of the stuff is a lot easier than the first two, I think. There's a lot more, not nearly as many calculations. Okay. Question?
Can you just go to the top for a second, Professor? I think I missed something a little earlier.
Sure. Which one?
It was in the very first one that we did. Sorry.
This one?
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry.
Get rid of this.
Yeah.
That was not a problem.
All right, I got it. Thanks.
Good. Any other questions, or anyone want to see anything? Okay, well, try to get that the exam in by Wednesday. If you can't get it by Wednesday, though, don't panic. You still get all the full credits. It's just that's going to go into your grade to date, and whenever you do turn it in, it'll go into your grade to date. But anyway, let's do Wednesday. So that'll be, we'll concentrate on this week. And then next week, we should finish this thing up next week. We'll see how far we get. But next week, we should be able to finish this. Finishes up.
Real quick, that's the chapter 10 exam you're talking about, right?
Chapter 10 is due on Wednesday, correct? This is chapter 11. This won't be due for at least 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
So there's actually a lot in this chapter 11. To be honest, we could spend the rest of the quarter on chapter 11. There's a lot in it. We're not going to do that, but there's there's a lot, and it's good stuff. This is stuff that happens every day. This is stuff that and they're big dollars. These are difference between something, a business surviving and not surviving, or being profitable or not profitable. These are all big decisions. Okay. Well, I will talk to you guys on next Monday. I also have tutoring hours on what do I have tutoring hours? I have tutoring hours on Friday at noon and at 6 p.m. There's a link to it in Blackboard. The Zoom meetings are all recorded. They're underneath. There's a Zoom meeting every Monday, and then underneath it says recorded Zoom meetings, and this has all the Zoom meetings. So if you missed a handout, missed an exam, whatever, you can go through and do these. They're all posted. This one it will be posted probably. Well, I tweak them in by midnight. Sometimes these zip right through, and I get them in by like 10:30. Sometimes it's and it has to do with YouTube processing. Sometimes it processes the whole thing in 10 minutes. Sometimes it takes 2 hours. So whenever it's done processing, that's when it gets up. But anyway, this is certainly these will be posted by the next day. So the Zoom meetings are posted by the next day. So if you ever do need to go back, you can always do that. And another thing, I almost hate to tell you guys this, but if you go to the Zoom meetings, you can kind of skip ahead. You'll miss things like my toy airplane, but life's not perfect. So. Okay, any questions? Okay, well, I will talk to you guys in a week. And if you have any questions on the test or anything, you might need clarification on something, let me know, and I won't tell you the answer, obviously, but I might be able to clarify what you're looking at. So, all right. Well, if you have any questions, go ahead and email me. And by the way, my two things. There are tutors available. Those are also up on in Blackboard, and I think I'm on that. And I take it back. You guys don't have tutors. so come to my office hours or contact me, and I'll set up a time. This class is higher than most of the others. So, but anyway, you can contact me if Friday doesn't work. What time does work, and I'll try to work around it. Okay. And you're not bothering me at all. If you have questions, go ahead and contact me. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys in a week.
All right, have a good night.
Right, thank you.
Have a good
All
one.
right, thank you.
Bye.